Thank you for listening to this Podcast One production. Now available on Apple Podcasts, Podcast One, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Podcast One presents the Steve Austin Show Classics.
Johnny Mundo had reached out to me a while back about being on the podcast, but time wasn't right, and I said, man, now would be a great time to talk to Johnny Mundo, formerly John Morrison, former Johnny Nitro. You got a lot of last names. You've heard of people, the man of 1,000 holes. This is the guy with the man of 1,000 last names. Johnny Mundo, welcome to 316 Gimmick Street. It's good to see you, man. You look like $1 million.
Good to be seen. $1 million, $1 million pesos.
Yeah, we better use.
I guess $1 million is worth more than the pesos, huh?
Hey, man. Okay, first off, physical appearance. You still look good. You're 35 years old, right?
Right.
What are you doing right now, dude? I saw some videos of you doing some push-ups, some stuff against the wall. Obviously, I know you got that parkour background. Crazy athletic. What is your, for a shoot, what is your fitness routine? I know you do that stuff.
So, I mean, I actually have a whole fitness product that I created. It's called Out of Your Mind Fitness. It's a functional training regimen, and it's a lot of body weight exercises using weight equipment for assistance rather than resistance. And I'd say I do that exact program 6 days a week for an hour to an hour and a half. It's like resistance training, like lifting weights. In addition to that, I usually do some kind of skill-based training 5 times a week. Whether
Skill-based
that's
meaning what?
Like boxing, MMA. I train sometimes downtown with your buddy Josh Barnett.
I was wondering because you before we roll sound, you said you live downtown now.
Yeah, and his spot over there down there at Tap Out is He's a great place, and yeah, if you're going to train MMA, he's the guy to learn from.
You damn right, man. It's a big bad dude.
And so usually like the weight training and some kind of skill based thing, and the skill is more like training cardio. So if it's MMA or boxing or parkour or some kind of stunt choreo, that's usually just what happens with what I'm doing based on my schedule.
Okay, but for cardio, like what? You like doing?
So literally, like
if you're doing sprints.
If I'm training MMA, that'll be my cardio.
Okay.
So if I'm in the octagon at Tap Out for a couple hours, like some of it's skill based, but then we'll just roll live. And if it's like a half hour of like trying to tap somebody out or not get tapped out, that's
winning.
Yeah, actually,
but dude, I never.
Let me just say about 15 minutes is all I
Yeah,
I need.
But still, that is very intense. I never knew you was into the MMA stuff.
Well, I don't think I'm ever going to be like competing in MMA,
right.
But I was a high school wrestler or college wrestler, and it's like I rolled jiu-jitsu in college for a little bit. It's something that I like to do because it's more interesting than running on a treadmill.
How far did you get at the high school and collegiate level?
I mean, I was CAF champion here, born and raised, team captain like a junior and senior year in high school up in Palos Verdes Peninsula.
Yeah.
And I wrestled for only 1 year at UC Davis, which is D1.
Right.
But I ended up not having really bad knee injuries, but I tore my meniscus on both knees and had 2 surgeries back-to-back at the end of my first year. And it was just enough to bump me off my I had like the eye of the tiger. You know, I was not partying, not drinking, nothing except lifting weights and training for wrestling my first half of my freshman year of college. And then after those 2 surgeries, it just bumped me off that track, and I started like going out, having a good time, and I really wanted to get into stunt fighting. I didn't really identify that I wanted to do pro wrestling at that time, but when I left collegiate wrestling, I started doing kung fu, jiu-jitsu, and gymnastics because I was trying to prepare for a career in stunts, and that kind of just took over.
What made you want to pursue the stunt work? Just a love of movies?
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason I started wrestling in high school was because I was a huge wrestling fan, and then I was always a huge fan of Jackie Chan and
right.
You know, like good old Predator, Die Hard, Bloodsport, those kind of movies. And I think I was a film major also at UC Davis.
Right.
So I wanted to produce and star in action films.
But you had another major too.
Geology.
Now, what were you going to do with that?
That was when I was pretty idealistic. I thought that geologists were kind of like Indiana Jones,
Yeah.
you know, like going and exploring places, finding gold mines and stuff. And when I got into it, it's actually really complicated. You have to take chemistry, advanced calculus, and a lot of this exploration now is like there's no gold mines that haven't been discovered. Like
Right.
the stuff is seismic exploration, so you have to set charges and look for like oil shale like deep beneath the ocean, which still sounds cool, but it's not like you're on a tank
Not like
with
Indiana
a whip.
Jones.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna be in a lab doing a lot of calculations or analyzing soil sediments and for some reason, when I started getting into the actual work of what a geologist did, it wasn't what I had thought. It wasn't as creative and fulfilling and outdoorsy.
So did you end up finishing college?
Yeah. I applied for Tough Enough 2 my senior year.
Right.
And I didn't make it. And I got rejected from Tough Enough 2 and literally graduated June 14th. I walked. June 15th, I was in Denver for Tough Enough 3. And it was like the final round of acceptance. And I found out that they accepted me like a week after I graduated. So
you did get the degree in film?
Yeah.
Okay, and now you're starting to pursue some of that now.
Yeah, and it was always something that I had on the back burner.
Yeah. No, I mean, because you're looking at me, and people say, well, they teach you about film. No, well, I've acted a little bit, and you're getting more into that. So what do they actually teach you as a film major?
So that's a very good question. And I feel like you could almost just teach yourself mostly what you need to know. In college, my major was film aesthetics and culture. So I was watching like old Japanese movies, like German movies. You study German expressionism. You study like the new wave, like movement in French cinema, old Western movies, all these different things. And a lot of it is like theory. And I feel like sometimes in school they're training you to be more of a film critic, and that isn't exactly what I wanted anyway. What I wanted was to be more of a creative guy, like writing stories, making things happen.
But this film degree wasn't exactly filmmaking.
No. It was
which is kind of deceptive for me, because I'm thinking, okay, you're a film major, you're learning how to make movies, but not the case.
It was as close as I could get at UC Davis.
Right.
If I was at UCLA, I could have done filmmaking, I could have done TV production, but they didn't really have a lot of options at UC Davis. It's more of an agriculture school.
Right.
If you want to be a winemaker or a geologist, it would have been perfect, or an engineer. And I didn't really decide I wanted to do film until I switched majors 2 years in.
Okay, now as we sit here and talk, you're 35 years of age, and reading about you and just doing the short amount of research that I could do and talking to you, I know you're now currently taking acting classes.
Yeah.
If you could go back in time, would you have done drama in high school, and would you have taken more, would it be theater of the arts? What's it called when you go to acting school?
Yeah, theater.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But would you have gone down that road, knowing what you know now, and having worked on some lower budget stuff?
First of all, like, I don't think I would change anything because I'm pretty happy with how it worked out. And I also, I took some acting classes in high school, and as part of my film major, I took maybe 6 different acting classes at UC Davis, and did a couple of the smaller productions, just the plays that they had there. And no, I don't think I would have changed anything.
But you're currently, I was reading that you're taking some more acting classes to help you with promo work.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I was studying with Howard Fine for a while.
Oh, man, he's wonderful.
When
did you study with him?
From right when I left, like the end of 2011, I left WWE, and then between like 2012, 2013, I was in Howard's studio, and now whenever I get an audition or if I book a role, I'll go back there and coach a little bit. And I'd say there's a guy named Hank Behrings that I'm actually going to go to after this to work on an audition. And another coach I have is a guy named Joseph Perlman. And all these guys it's like learning from different people. Like Howard Fine is a lot of Uta Hagen, like a lot of comparison type, like finding like similes from your childhood to compare stuff to. Joseph's is like a much more practical approach for how to prepare to actually deliver on set. And Hank is good at identifying like specifically what's interesting about you, and if you're not doing that in a role, how to bring that out, how to make that performance more interesting, but still be honest about it. So all those different people have different approaches, and it's kind of nice to spread out and learn from different people.
Hey man, well, let's talk about now your incarnation as Johnny Mundo, because you've been with Lucha Underground now for about a year. You guys are hoping for season 2.
So season 1 is in the can. We've shot it 39 episodes, and like you said, the season finale of Lucha Underground is August 5th. I have a match with Alberto Del Rio that I think everyone should go out of their way to see. It's an awesome match. Alberto, everyone knows, super talented, and Johnny Mundo, super talented too.
Dude, you're turning in to me. I saw a lot of your work in WWE because I was there, but I was also doing my own thing, and then I left. You were still there.
Sidetrack for 1 second. Do you remember calling me one time? Like, I had a match with Jeff Hardy, and you saw it on TV, and you called me, and just to talk shit, talk about the match. Like, I at that time I'd rode that loop with The Miz, Matt Hardy, and Ken Anderson, and I don't know if you know this or not, but Ken Anderson does an awesome impersonation of you.
Yeah.
And so that whole ride, we were doing Stone Cold impersonations.
Yeah.
And for some reason, like, we got to the hotel after like laughing and having a good time in the car, and you called and you're like, "Hey, John Morrison." I was like, "Oh, hey Ken, what's up, brother?" And I thought you were Ken for like, I want to say like 2 minutes or 3 minutes before it dawned on me that it was really you.
Yeah, but every now and then I'll see something that someone does or whatever that resonates with me, or I see that they're getting a grasp of things, so I'll call them out of the blue. And so, yeah, I do remember that. But, hey, man, and watching, man, I'm watching right now. I guess this was one of your first matches with Prince Puma, because the air date on this was 10/29/2014. Was this your first match back after a 3-year layoff? Because it's a hell of a damn match.
I'd been working, and I still do. I still work independent wrestling shows, but not nearly as full-time as I had been on the road. I haven't worked a full schedule until Lucha Underground, and that is one of the first like matches that I had been in quite a while. Because
Vampiro and Striker are talking a little bit about ring rust, but really there's no ring rust here. One of the things that I noticed in watching this match, first of all, your work here in Lucha Underground, to me, is much more polished and way further down the road than your work was in WWE. And then also, man, Jesus Christ, I guess you guys and that, what was the match called where you and Prince Puma wrestled for? It was an hour.
The Iron Man match, the all night long match?
The all night long, yeah, it was all night. Because you go into Dario Cueto's office and he's got the proposition for you.
Right.
I love the way those things are shot. Tell me about that, because that's about as close to acting as you're going to get without acting. I mean, because it's y'all spin, and talking to Eric Van Wagenen, you know, it's a television show. And, man, you show up there in character. How was it working with that guy?
With Dario Cueto?
Yeah.
I think that guy really anchors the whole show. He's so talented.
He's very, very talented.
And it's exactly like acting. It's like being on set. I mean, you got lines, and they have a little bit of flexibility with the lines, but I would say not as much as a promo in the ring, which has got to be more bullet points, and you just paraphrase because you don't know how the people are going to react to you.
Right.
But these aren't for a live crowd. This is like filming a TV show.
Exactly.
So you have lines, and they cover it from different angles, which means you can't be changing what you're saying every time.
Oh, but in that scene, I mean, they'll come from Dario's perspective. You just see his hands in the shot with you in the foreground. I mean, it's just good stuff. I love the sunglasses that you're wearing. How long does it take you guys to knock those out?
And that's another thing. I'm amazed at how fast they get through those. Because they're expensive, it's expensive to shoot that way. They're usually running like a 2-camera setup, and they're shooting on a Lexus, I think, which is usually the same type of cameras that you'd see Ray Donovan or any like big primetime like TV shows shot on. And they don't have a ton of time to be shooting these things. So the one you're talking about now, where I'm in Cueto's office, I think we shot that whole thing in 2.5 hours.
Right.
But we also shot it in English and Spanish.
Right. That's what I've been hearing.
We have to do the whole conversation and get get my coverage in English, and then as soon as we get it, they're like, all right, Spanish, so then I have to reset the cameras.
Okay, now talk to me about you speaking Spanish, because I was talking with Eric. He said you can work your way through this stuff, right?
Well, I mean, I grew up in Los Angeles,
right?
And
I grew up in Texas, in South Texas, and surprisingly, I don't speak any Spanish.
I also dated a Mexican girl for a long time, so I learned a bunch of swear words from her dad.
Yeah. So you know the good stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So you were able to adapt.
So I took Spanish 4 years in high school. I lived in Spain for a summer in college, and I wish I'd partied less and learned Spanish a little bit better while I was over there. But all those things kind of just, I think they're somewhere deep in my brain. Like all those the words are there, kind of. Right. And being backstage in the locker room, a lot of the guys don't even speak English very well.
Right.
So I'm putting together matches with Aerostar, for example, in Spanish. And it's just, I think it's just the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Oh, absolutely. With repetition comes, is on-the-job training, and repetition, leads to being more efficient at it.
And I've tried to make a point of, like, speaking in Spanish rather than having my voice dubbed.
Right.
And at the beginning, I was clunkier. And there was a couple, I did a sit-down interview with Vampiro, and I just had to have him have cue cards because that was like a 5-minute conversation. And for the
And I
shorter
watched
things,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So that one I had to do in Spanish, and that one I needed cue cards for.
You're listening to another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show, only on Podcast One.
Geico asks, how would you love a chance to save some money on insurance? Of course you would. And when it comes to great rates on insurance, Geico can help. Like with insurance for your car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and RV. Even help with homeowners or renters coverage. Plus, add an easy-to-use mobile app, available 24-hour roadside assistance, and more. And Geico is an easy choice. Switch today and see all the ways you could save. It's simple. Go to geico.com or contact your local agent today.
Steve Austin Unleashed.
Okay, let's talk about Johnny Mundo, the character, versus John Morrison or Johnny Nitro or all the names that you
Stupid
had.
names, yeah.
Who and what is Johnny Mundo? How did you come up with that character? And working with those 3 acting coaches that we just referenced, how did you apply any of those learnings into what you do now, just from a presentation standpoint of the character?
I haven't really changed that much between John Morrison and Johnny Mundo. I mean, the
Some of the same mannerisms.
The primary reason for the name switch is just Lucha Underground is trying to own everybody's names,
Right.
and I don't personally own John Morrison. If I did, I would have used that same name probably.
Right.
It's kind of annoying to constantly be switching names, and then every interview
But I dig
do,
the Mundo. I just like the way it sounds.
So I do too.
But anyway, back to you.
And they wanted my name originally to be Johnny World for Lucha Underground.
Right.
And I thought World would be hard to chant, and Mundo is just World in Spanish.
Yeah, dude, I dig it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's basically the character is like taking elements of who I am with the volume turned up as most wrestling characters should be, and Johnny Mundo is a rock star type personality. He's a movie star type guy. And when I came in as a babyface, I just tried to keep the confidence there, but not the narcissism. And then I've always found when you turn heel, you just get to play a lot more. You get to turn the narcissism up. You get to start making fun of people. Your shit doesn't stink all of a sudden. And I think you discover stuff about yourself in the character.
But there's also that freedom there to fall on your face and not have to worry about it. As a baby face, you screw up, you blow a high spot, you do something wrong, you're held accountable because you're supposed to be, damn near perfect.
Right.
But as a heel, man, to me, more freedom for experimentation and leeway within the character.
And especially in Lucha, because there's so much precision and so many acrobatic moves. Like when I turned heel in Lucha Underground, I was like, oh, thank you, because it's hard to keep up with Prince Puma. Like, Prince Puma and Phoenix and these guys are in their 20s and they can do pretty much anything and everything. And for me to keep up with them as a babyface was interesting and fun. But the pressure's off a little bit because now I just have to kick their asses.
So now you,
I keep up in a different way.
Are you considered a rudos now?
Yeah.
Rudo, is that the correct name?
Rudo is the correct term for heel in Mexico.
Okay, and Technico would be the babyface. Okay, man, I was just sitting there watching the match with you and Prince Puma, and then, of course, the all-night match, and there's a difference in that match. And was that because of the heel turn, why you're so much more aggressive in that second bout?
That was it, yeah.
Because, man, first of all, I didn't see any ring rust here, and like I said, in this match, your work is way better than it was in WWE, especially now with the heel switch. Dude, I love how decisive you are, how you're executing. There's no hesitation. You said the word yourself. You said confidence. I see a much more confident performer in the ring. And maybe it's due because at 35, I always consider you've been in the business, 10, 12 years?
Almost 12 years now.
Okay, and that's kind of that 10 to 12 mark is when everybody really puts all the pieces together. Yeah, you have guys that learn it in 4, 5, 6, 7, but that 10 to 12 is kind of that holy grail. Me and Arn Anderson always talk about this when guys really come to their prime, and 35 is a prime money-making year and performing year. So it's all of that, but also the heel aspect has given you, especially here, just a different comfort level. But you're executing on a much higher level than you did in WWE. Would you agree with me? Or would you take that back to, obviously WWE, you were still learning. I know it's a long one question. I'm bad about doing this because in one of your interviews with Dario Cueto, I believe, you said you were handcuffed in WWE. Can you break down all the questions I just asked and try to make chicken salad out of chicken shit?
Absolutely. So I think my work has definitely evolved. And I've been doing stuff physically at Lucha Underground that I never even really attempted. at WWE, but really more importantly, the confidence is there. And I think sometimes when you're on the road full time and you step away and you get a chance to marinate on who you were in the ring, the choices that you made, and why you did what you did while you were wrestling, and when you come back, you have a clear idea of who you want to be in the ring. And I feel like I have that now with Lucha Underground. As far as the handcuffs go, I feel like WWE is the best way to. I use this metaphor a lot. It's like an express train, and their train is moving very fast, and they've got a couple of main event guys that are drawn. I mean, you've got Cena, you've got Taker, and people are paying money to see those guys. Then you've got people like me, like I don't know, Ziggler, Miz, like they're there on the show. We have followings, and people want to see our matches, but really, the most important are the main event guys. And when I say I've handcuffed sometimes with WWE, I felt like I wanted to be the main event guy. I wanted to be the guy that could come up with any idea I wanted and have it happen. And just the way that the business works over there, you can't have that for everybody. You just can't. It's impossible.
You just can't. There's too many guys.
And at Lucha Underground, I feel like I am that guy. Like I'm the main event guy. I'm the guy that I can walk into to talk to Eric. I talked to him yesterday. Just call him on his cell. I can talk to all the creative guys, and if I have an idea, I can tell them what I want to do and why I want to do it, and then we can discuss like yes, no, why not, or when. And I just feel like I have more creative autonomy at Lucha Underground, and that's what I meant by handcuffs. And
because we're not sitting here bashing WWE
and
or
also
creative. It's two different machines.
And in the context of wrestling promotions, of course you're going to bash each other. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, but there's no malice intended. It just says what it is. They're two different systems.
Right.
It's funny because I've noticed it too, and you hit the nail right on the head. When I stepped away for a while and looked at what I was doing, I had a different approach on it. And although I've been out of the wrestling business since 2003, I continue to learn because I continue to watch, and therefore I'm still very informed as far as what I would be doing now, or how someone is coming across, or what the work is, and looking at the quality of work. So you were able to take the time off and reevaluate and assess and see, okay. It's a whole different standpoint.
Yeah.
I always like to say this. Sometimes you're so far in the forest you can't see the trees. They're right in front of you. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden you clear out a little bit, get some headspace, and you think, okay, man, check it out. Here's a whole different presentation. I'm coming from a different place now, and it's a more well-rounded approach. And I kind of was and talking to Tyson Kidd, he just went out to get his neck fused up. And I said, hey, man, in your downtime, man, I said, keep watching the business, but now that you're removed from it, look at who moves you in promos. Look at who resonates with you, or listen to the crowd and watch the guys.
Yeah.
And then watch the guys and listen to the crowd drop off, and try to analyze where they lost the crowd, why these guys had the crowd and this other two guys didn't. So that's the way I always approach the business. And when I get a chance to watch, I still do that.
And yeah, same. And I think you're absolutely. I think we're talking about the same thing. You just get that chance to marinate and think about it. And for me, it just became like easier to simplify. Like the most simple way, like to explain the business to people. And this is maybe another reason why the time helped me is a lot of times you do independent wrestling shows and you end up doing a seminar and doing a class and teaching the students wherever you are. Like I did one for Santino's Wrestling School a few months back in Toronto. And like you get a group of young wrestlers, and they're asking you questions, and you're like, oh, well, shit. now I gotta think about it and answer these questions for myself. And the most simple answers to a lot of the questions that I would get asked at these seminars is like the most simple way to explain psychology of wrestling is baby faces give the crowd what they want, and heels take it away. And if you just reduce everything you're doing, if you're a baby face or a heel, to that, everything kind of becomes clear. Like, should I do this or should I not do that? Like, are you a babyface? Does the crowd want to see that? Then yeah. Are you a babyface? And does the crowd not want to see that? Then no, don't do that.
It's interesting. It's a very linear approach to explaining the basic psychology of the business, and I never looked at that, but I can damn sure see what you're talking about.
And there's a million different approaches. That's
absolutely. But I've never heard it explained like that. But it's a good way.
Yeah,
it's a pretty economical and efficient way of saying, parameters.
Then the next question that's always the hardest is you explain it like that, and then people ask, well, what do the people want? And if you figure that out,
you got to do something.
Then you're a main event guy.
Yeah. But, that goes back to and to those guys that ask the question. You go out there and you do something to elicit a response. Based on that response, you proceed accordingly, and that is basically what pro wrestling is. You grab that headlock and do whatever you do, and then you're listening to the crowd. And it's always funny, Johnny, as you well know, it's one thing. Oh well, we've got to get this match we're going to talk about here in a second, but man, you got to listen to the crowd. No matter if you're working, if we're talking 15, 20 years ago, I'll call it in the ring, and even way before, just to finish is all you knew when you went to the ring, versus, hey, everything mapped out A to Z. You still got to listen to the crowd as far as the timing, and, we've got time cues and everything like that, commercial breaks. It is what it is. It's a very complicated system these days, and guys that are on top or guys that are good have got to be able to survive and make those elements work for them. Going back to your second match with Prince Puma, the all-night match, I went back on your Twitter account. You said that was probably the greatest match of your life. I would agree. That was a badass match that anybody would be proud to have a part of. Man, that bump you guys had all built from. I love the way. Let me see. He took a 2-0 or 2-1 lead on you.
Yeah.
The one with I love the finish that you got on him when you did the acrobatic thing where you got into the ropes. Referee didn't see it.
Yeah.
Good way to cheat. I dug that, and so finally, you guys. And I'm gonna give the whole match away, and but you can watch it on YouTube. Just find it. What's up? What would that be called, Johnny?
I think if you just YouTube Mundo Prince Puma all night long, it'd come up on YouTube.
It's an awesome match.
The L-Raid.
Now, in theory, you guys worked about because you had open and close of the show. You had him, the way the match goes down. So the finish, but you guys basically worked 55 minutes. At least 50.
I think we worked over an hour.
Over an hour?
Because when I watched the match, there was several things that got cut out of the match.
Right.
So we had break spots. I mean, we worked just like a WWE TV taping, basically.
Right.
We had
you worked through the breaks.
Yeah. We had I forget how it broke down, but we had 7 minutes break, then 5 minutes, then break, and then 5 minutes, and then we wanted to keep the longest chunk at the end.
Right.
And this is another thing where we were sitting down and we were in on this. We were talking about when would the break spots be, what would be most effective, and we were all in agreement that we should have as long of a time uninterrupted at the end.
Right.
The longest chunk should be at the end. We had to do commercial breaks because it's TV.
Right.
But the more of those that we could do up front, the better, so we could have more time at the end. Solid.
You guys, several times you brought it into the crowds. Were real interesting spots, and a couple times up there in the corner of that second layer. And then that, of course, you started setting the table, no pun intended, with the tables.
Right.
And, of course, they weren't to come into play until later. But you set the table, you set the anticipation that you knew soon enough, or at some time, these tables are going to be used.
I think that's the beauty of those type of things.
Oh, dude,
you set the things up, and you tease it, and then you set something else up, and you tease it again, and then eventually, everyone knows.
Yeah.
Someone's going through the
tables.
When
are they going to be used? I love the way that thing climaxed. And tell me about that bump. Because when you look back, and there's been spectacular bumps, from Mick Foley, working with Taker in the Hell in the Cell to all of the ladder matches that all those guys in WWE put forward. But I'd put this, a couple of those bumps in this match in that ballpark.
It was pretty
out there. What were y'all thinking when all of a sudden you fed up? He does the tackle, boom, you guys go down. I know you've I don't think you've ever done that bump before. You've done a lot of bumps.
That was
kind of one of those things. It's a calculated risk.
It's almost like a once-in-a-lifetime bump.
Yeah.
And I think there's a couple things at play. One was a lot of the people at Lucha Underground, myself included, have a little bit of a chip on our shoulder about proving that we deserve to be where we're at and proving that we're the best show on TV. And that was going through my mind. I wanted to do something that people would watch and be like, holy shit, we're not going to see that anywhere else but here.
Right.
So that was what was going into that. And side note, this is how crazy Puma is. We were talking about that stuff.
You guys have amazing chemistry, by the way.
He's like, why don't we do a Spanish fly? I'll hit you with this. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
we're already 20 feet in the air. We don't even be doing flips out of the tables.
So that's what he actually wanted to do?
Originally. And we were talking about it.
Yeah, I'm watching the finish in the first time, you guys, and there's a Spanish fly executed.
He wanted to do that off the thing through those tables.
No.
And we looked at it and I was like, let's just
Good call.
let's just make sure we hit the tables.
Yeah.
And that set is it's a little bit janky.
Yeah.
Like it's a concrete slab, but there's like those metal rebars
Yeah.
around it, and some of those things aren't real metal. They're just set deck, so they're
Right.
styrofoam. So the first time we got up there, like I took a little step on that metal rebar and it broke because it's styrofoam, and I was
Right.
like, we got to be pretty careful about what we're doing up here. And the way that it turned out, I think was perfect, because when we landed, both of us had the wind knocked out of us, and we're both like for a second like, hey, you okay? Yeah, you okay? And we're like, for me, I think I was like, that's about the max of
I
of
would
any
say,
shit that I'm
don't
gonna
push
pull.
the envelope any further than that. But
Yeah.
it was a spectacular bump, and they captured it wonderfully. And I think they go to break, but then they came back and they replayed it like 3 times.
It was cool. It's
Awesome.
the first replay in Lucha history.
Yeah.
And it was something that I've been on them about like for a long time, is getting a replay camera, because some of the spectacular moves that these guys are doing, I personally want to watch it over and over again, and you have to rewind the DVR, and it just seems like they should have a replay camera.
Here's the thing. I love the match, but now I'm sitting there thinking the only thing that I thought was missing, because the finish goes down, time runs out, but there never was a live, because you guys are going all night long, so you're working within the parameters of the show.
Right.
And you guys say your show, the guy, there wasn't anybody counting down to raise that sense of urgency that something needed to happen, because you guys were at 4-4.
Right. And
that's the only thing I thought was missing.
I think it would have helped. And
yeah,
you're
because
absolutely
you're
right.
like, man, you're into the countdown now, 20, 19, 8,
And I think that because it's a production that hasn't been used to a lot of wrestling.
Right.
A lot of times they put the TV show before the wrestling.
Right.
And then that's what I like that, because then I can come in and say like, no, this is a wrestling match. Like, the crowd needs to be involved. And I thought of that after. I wish I thought of it ahead of time too.
Yeah.
But that we originally the match was just supposed to end with that last fall, and it was going to be like, that's the end of the show. And when we were sitting in the meeting, I was like, that can't be the end of the show. It's an hour match. The time has to. And like everyone was like, all of a sudden, 5 minutes before the match started, like, oh shit, let's change this up and fix that. And there's little growing pains and things like that come up. That every episode, sometimes there's a last minute idea or fix.
Yeah.
And that's part of why I love it over there, just because it feels like everyone's involved and trying to figure out the solution to all these problems, and it's actually like happening so fast that you need everybody to be on the same wavelength.
Right, man. And again, that's nitpicking, but that would have really raised the stakes up. And when I watched it, it's
if
like,
the whole crowd was counting down.
Yeah, man. Because anyway, but it was an outstanding match.
And then it was part of it, because they wanted to have complete control in post to be able to do the clock timing and stuff.
Yeah. You deal with that stuff.
And that's
but you know what? Anyway, a lesson learned. If they ever decide to do it again, you got to have that countdown in there. Hey, man, let's take a quick break. I want to talk to Johnny about adapting. So, to me, in my estimation, real easily to the lucha style, and your athletic nature, your parkour background certainly plays into that. Dude, you've been a crazy type athletic background ever since I've known you, been watching you. How hard easy was it for you to adapt to the lucha style? And I'll stop right there, because I'm so good at asking long-winded questions. How was the transition into working lucha?
It wasn't that different from the way that I worked in WWE. I mean, my first match, when Eminem debuted in 2005, our very first match was Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. We won the tag championships.
It's hard to go wrong with those two guys.
I know.
Yeah.
And I've had the chance to work with Rey, like, maybe not 100 times, but a lot when I was with WWE. And we had feuds with the Mexicools, with Super Crazy and Psychosis and Groovy. So I had some experience. It wasn't like I was just like venturing off into uncharted territory. I've definitely learned quite a bit. I think the language barrier is a little difficult sometimes, and the difference in psychology is hard. And sometimes, instead of completely adapting to lucha, what I think makes Lucha Underground unique and different is blending American psychology with lucha psychology and getting some of the moves to mean more.
Kind of like a hybrid.
That's what I think it should be. I always push it that way.
Well, it makes sense, because sometimes, like, back in the old days when we were shooting Redneck Island, we shot in Mexico. So, man, I'd catch some, it was either EMLL or AAA or whatever, but they'd get some badass workers down there.
Right.
It's the guys that are veterans are real salty. I mean, laying their stuff in are just absolutely very, technical, and I love to watch that stuff. But just when I watch the totality of the product, I don't really understand the psychology of what they're trying to do, because both guys can shine, or the heel get some heat. All of a sudden, here comes the baby back, or the Rudo and the technical, whatever you want to call them. But I don't necessarily understand the pure psychology of a match. But I just appreciate the athleticism. So the fact that you can throw a little bit of American psychology in there,
one of the first conversations I had with a lot of the guys from AAA was, if there's a way that we can get in Lucha Underground people to, instead of just cheering for moves, because they're going to cheer for moves, it's spectacular, to cheer for the people, to cheer for Phoenix and Aerostar and Puma, then I think we're going to turn a corner and we're going to have something, a product that is uniquely different, that is going to be appealing to a bigger audience.
Yeah, and taking the time to invest in the characters, and so the characters come alive, and you're cheering for a person, not just for the fact that the person you know is going to do a bunch of crazy moves.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's great when they say, hey, this is awesome and awesome, but, when both characters mean something and you're doing something that's awesome, they buy in, that's the holy grail.
Those are the moments that I remember when I was a kid.
Yeah.
When you're invested into the characters and the characters do something awesome, then it means something.
Okay, you grew up here in L.A. You mentioned you're a lifelong wrestling fan. I know, Kurt Hennig was one of your favorites. Shawn Michaels was one of your favorites. But growing up as a kid, and you're 35, who was some of the guys you were cutting your teeth on locally?
I mean, when I was growing up, I used to go to the Great Western Forum back in the day with my dad, and we'd watch the house shows. The Macho Man, the Bushwhackers, and
yeah,
that was
a great building to watch wrestling in. I mean, it's kind of not on the great side of town right now.
Yeah,
but I thought, are they rebuilding that?
They did. Yeah. I just went to
it's a great venue.
I forget what the name of it was, but it was like a kickboxing event they had down there. It was real cool.
We used to wrestle back here in WCW, and I love that building just because I love the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So you guys are going down there, but basically it was WWF stuff.
Yeah, it was WWF. WWF was the stuff that I watched the most. And when I was younger, the first guy that I really started watching the most was Hulk Hogan.
Right.
I mean, that was when I was a little kid. And
hey, man, dude, he was the guy leading the charge. I mean, Hulk, man,
he was everywhere.
Wild. I mean, so why not?
I was saying my prayers and eating my vitamins.
Yeah.
And him and Warrior, like at WrestleMania 6, and I think when I started going to the events with my dad, hearing like just how the crowd would react to Hulk Hogan, like you're a kid and it's so exciting that you get into it. And as I got older, Macho Man really was my guy, and the Bushwhackers, the Rockers like Marty Jannetty, Shawn Michaels, the tag teams, Legion of Doom.
Right.
I mean, it's if you're a wrestling fan, it's really everybody.
Right.
I mean, I'd say Macho Man is one of the guys that had the most influence on who I wanted to be in the ring.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but because like when I watch you work, I mean, you really remind me of John Morrison or Johnny Mundo. So I mean, I guess it's a compliment to, I think, you have an original body of work. You have your influences of obviously, but I really can't see that. I just see you as being you.
I'd take from a lot of people, though. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's hard to say, like, I'm not just copying, like, somebody.
No.
But
and you're not.
But, like, Piper, I don't know. I mean, you could just rattle off wrestlers all day.
Right.
Like Kurt Hennig, Piper, Macho Man, Hogan, Warrior, Shawn Michaels, and then even Rey Mysterio. He was one of the guys that I really started studying when I was high school, college, when I started thinking about, I think I want to have a career as a pro wrestler. He was the guy that I started watching the most closely.
And, dude, but Ray, of all people, I mean, dude, he's a Hall of Famer. He's a guy, I mean, his style was
specifically just because, like, when – actually, not even just Ray, but when him and, like, Super Crazy and Psychosis came into ECW, like, just the type of stuff that they were doing hit me because I'd never really seen it before. And I was like, holy shit, like – and actually – and Rob, too, like Rob and Sabu and, like, that whole ECW stuff. It was just a different style.
Yeah. But was it a style that you figured you could learn or try to emulate? Because, I mean, hardly anybody could do what Ray was doing way back in the day.
At the time, that's what I thought I could do or what I wanted to do. And I think that was I wouldn't have made the same decision now.
Yeah.
which is cool because it's just how you evolve as a wrestler and as a person. I wanted to learn how to do those type of moves because it's what I thought was cool, and I thought those moves were cool. And now I understand, like, I don't think people would want to see me do Rave's moves. They want to see Ray do Ray's moves.
Yeah. Hey, man, let's go back to just a couple of years ago when you were on Tough Enough. How did you enjoy that whole experience? What was your takeaway from that? Because it was tough enough, and then 4 years of training before you actually had your first match, correct?
Yeah, just about.
Okay, so your experience in Tough Enough, good, bad, and different?
Loved it. I mean, I couldn't have hoped for a better opportunity. I mean, I tried out for Tough Enough 2, didn't make it, and then I started training at like a wrestling school in Sacramento, and I would go like twice a week while I was a full-time student and train at Supreme Pro Wrestling at the Colonial Theater in Sacramento, and then I reapplied for Tough Enough 3.
Who was leading that camp?
A guy named the Big Ugly.
Okay.
And El Flaco Loco.
Okay.
Another guy named Dante was one of the trainers there.
Did they know what they were talking about?
They were pretty good. And when I reapplied for Tough Enough 3, I ended up making it on Tough Enough 3. And when I went, actually, the Big Ugly, when I found out I made the show, he's like, brother, when you get there, forget everything you learned, shut your mouth, and just listen to what they teach you. And I was like,
right.
Oh, he knows the business.
That was good advice.
Yeah. And when I got there, I felt like it was perfect for me because I was a fan of the business. I had all this gymnastics training and all these ideas and all this energy, and it was an opportunity to learn from the best. And it was Al, Bill, and Ivory were the trainers on that season of Tough Enough.
To me, Al is a great teacher, and a lot of people, I think I've told the story a few times. Before I came up to WWF way back in the day, I was recovering from a tricep tear, and I'd only worked like 2 or 3 matches in ECW, which weren't really matches. And so, I told Vince, when he hired me, I said, hey, man, I got some ring rust on me. I'd like to go to Lima, Ohio, and to Al's camp and work with him for about 5-6 days. So I flew up there and worked with Al and D-Lo. And so Al was wonderful to me. And because I had a high respect for his in-ring ability and what he could do, and as a teacher. So, and I remember, actually, before the submission match I had with Bret Hart in WrestleMania 13, Al taught me the 2 or 3 submission moves, the Texas Cloverleaf, and 1 or 2 other ones. But I learned those from Al Snow there in his camp in Lima.
Right.
Yeah. So I thought he was a great teacher.
Yeah, I think. I think so too.
And I think Bill is too. I don't know what happened with the calamity that ensued down there in Florida and Orlando with him, but I enjoy it. I think Bill is a damn good instructor as well.
For where I was on Tough Enough, Bill was perfect. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's a hard ass. And he's aggressive, and he makes you makes sure that you have respect for the business. And on that show of Tough Enough, that's what you need because there's a bunch of kids. Some are respectful, some aren't, but everyone's green as grass. And you need somebody like Bill there, and you need somebody like Al, and everybody's got a role, and everybody is there for a reason. And I thought that I still think my season was the best season. I mean, probably because I was on it. But
well, where did y'all film at?
We lived in a house up in the mountains in Calabasas, and we filmed down in I think it was over there somewhere. Like I think it was like North Hollywood. We filmed at a big studio.
Now you're a film major, but this is your first foray into TV, correct? Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts about how the reality television aspect broke down for you?
The very first day I was there, and I remember like watching the cameras and like kind of walked off like the mat to look at it, and Al Snow come up like right next to my face and goes, "Hey, are you here for that, or are you here for wrestling?" And I was like, "Oh shit, I'm here for wrestling."
Right.
I can think about that stuff later, but for now, let me just like think about wrestling, think about what I'm learning. And I tried to tune that out as much as I could after that because I realized like I can't do. I mean, some people can. I can't though. I've got kind of like a singular focus a lot of times. If I focus on one thing, I can get really good at it. But if I try to do too many things at once, I just kind of am average or less at all of them.
Dude, I tell my wife I'm the worst multitasker in the world. You give me one thing, I'm cool.
Right.
But all of a sudden, if you start spreading my attention span over about 2 or 3 or 4 different projects, I'll shit to bed every single time.
Yeah.
I don't like to multitask. Now, after that, you go over to OVW.
Yeah, so when I got to OVW, Danny Davis was there, and Jim Cornette was running it, and we had Lance Storm come in, and I feel like he's one of the best trainers that I had in my whole career. I can't say enough good things about Lance.
Badass.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the way he explained stuff and the way he ran practice.
Right.
because that was when I was at OVW. That was the time where I felt like Bill would come and train, and I got a lot more from Lance than Bill at the time, because Lance's opinion was that your job as a pro wrestler is to get in shape, do your homework, and when you get to OVW, it's time to learn about wrestling and psychology. And that's how I was treating it. I was doing my cardio, and I was spending like 2 or 3 hours at the gym on my own time every night after practice. And during practice, I was just trying to focus on wrestling, which is what was Lance's forte, is explaining. And sometimes if we had to do like 1,000 squats with Bill, I felt like it was counterproductive, because I was like, oh man, I already did my leg workout, and now I'm spending all day squatting, and I want to be learning like psychology.
I think too much has been way back in the days of just trying to crack people. Or you hear the tough training camps back in the day where, here comes a guy who doesn't know anything, wants to get in the business, so they just torture him through these torturous, rigorous, sessions, just as a weeding out process.
I agree,
it's just a waste of time to find out if he really wants it.
Right. And usually, I feel like that too. Well, I mean, obviously feel like that for myself personally, because I know that I really did want it.
Right.
And maybe it wasn't a waste of time, though, because maybe there were some people that did get weeded out.
Exactly. But at a certain point, it's time to drop that shit and learn about, the ABCs of the business and the mechanics of it.
There's a room full of 30 people that are trying to get ready to show up on Raw or SmackDown.
Right.
Like, those people should be learning, the ABCs of the business, like psychology, holds.
So tell me about the mechanics of the business, just as far as the work with respect to work in the ring, chain wrestling, high spots, the mechanics of it, because, you reached a very high level in WWE. You're at a whole different level working in Lucha Underground, in my opinion. Maybe it has to do with the fact that the guys you're working with from the Mexican side are really great technicians, and that's a rub-off on you, and you've gotten that.
I've definitely picked up a few things from these guys.
Absolutely.
And they... You know what, though? I think the more that, and it's also just that I've been wrestling for an extra 4 years now.
Right.
And I've had a chance, like, on the independent scene to wrestle, like, a lot of the guys, I got to wrestle Kevin Steen at 2CW, Noam Dar, Will Ospreay, like, a lot of the top, like, guys on the independent wrestling scene. And every time I wrestle one of those guys, hopefully they pick up something from me, because I'm picking up something from them, too. Like, learning to hold, or a different way to do something, or something about footwork. And it's definitely now being immersed with a whole new roster of people. There's Angelico, who's like came up with learning a bunch of stuff from the Tournament, like all those Japanese wrestling holds.
Right.
And I personally think that like you can definitely do too much of that, but being exposed to it and learning a few things from him, learning some stuff from Hijo de Fantasma and Phoenix, and all the different stuff that I've been immersed in now has really rounded me out, I think.
Now, how long did it take for you to really have a really total command of psychology?
I don't feel like I even have it now.
Okay, that's my point. Because the mechanics is one thing, and it took me, man. I was a decent mechanic at 2 years, but when I go back and watch my stuff now, I'll cringe, and I could nitpick. If I sit there and watch a match, I would just shit all over some of the stuff I did up 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Right.
Why did I do that, or that looked like shit? But the psychology part of it, I finally started putting together at about the 8 or 9 year mark, and at the 10-year mark, which I mentioned earlier with you, that's kind of when I really thought I started having a hand of it. But then you get a chance, you start working with your Bret Harts, your Shawn Michaels, who kind of, I was a pretty damn good worker. I could work a crowd for sure, but when you work with guys like your Brets and your Shawns who kind of have that next level of, first of all, athletic ability, not so much with Bret athletic ability. Shawn was crazy athletic, but Bret with the storytelling, Shawn with the storytelling, they were kind of that scientific level from a psychology standpoint.
Right. I think right now, in hindsight, I've got psychology 100%, but in the moment, I'm still like I feel like I'm almost there, or maybe you should always be almost there. Maybe you should never be all the way there.
Right.
I learned this in high school and college wrestling. I had one tournament. It was the league championships. There's I think it was like a 32 school thing. I wrestled some guy that I should have pretty much destroyed, and I didn't. I barely won. I won by 1 point, and my coach said, like, "What the hell is that?" Right. I was like, "I don't know. Stuff wasn't working." And he's like, "Yeah, it wasn't working because you don't do those moves. Like a lateral drop, like a headlock takeover. Like you don't. I've never seen you do that stuff before. Why were you trying it?" And I was like, I didn't, just thought it was there.
Yeah.
And then he's like, don't do any of that shit. Cross reach single. That's your do a cross reach single, and then do a leg ride and do a power half. That's what you do. And it was and then for the rest of the tournament, that's what I did, and I won. And I apply that same type of stuff to wrestling. Like, if you do certain things well and you know them, just do that stuff and you don't mess up. But it's when you're trying stuff for the first time, you start to get sloppy or stuff's a little bit off. And that part of psychology I feel like I get now. There's moves that I know, and I know a lot more moves now that I could say I can execute every time than I did 5 years ago. But I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. Like, I know what I shouldn't be doing. Right. And that's, as far as in-ring mechanics go, I feel like when you get that part of it, that's when you've got a grasp of the mechanics.
Hey, and watching the show at Lucha Underground, there at the building, Bull Heights, what do y'all call that place?
The Temple?
The Temple. I love the Temple.
Yeah.
Is that a 20x20 ring y'all are working in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's a 20x20. The ropes are...
it looks pretty bump-friendly.
It's a great bumping ring.
Yeah.
The ropes are a little bit lower than the WWE ropes. I'd say about 3 inches lower, and they're cable as opposed to rope, which is they're springboard friendly.
Right.
Is a good way to put it.
So yeah. A little stiffer.
Yeah.
Hey, one of the things I want to ask about. Tell me about the El Patron, Del Rio.
El Patron, yeah.
He's got off over there. He seems like he's got a new lease on life. I really like his character a whole lot better in Lucha Underground than I did with WWE. I'm not shitting on what he did over there. I just like what he's doing now.
I mentioned before that I think some of the guys have a chip on their shoulder.
Right.
And I think, I'm saying that in a good way.
Yeah.
And I think he does, for sure. And when he came over there and he made his debut and he cut that promo about how it feels he feels good to be in a place where the word equal means something,
right.
And these are his people. And when you look at his eyes in that promo, he believes it.
Yeah.
And I think the end of his run in WWE, like, he wasn't fully there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he is fully there now, maybe more than ever in his career. And when I'm in the ring across from him, I can feel it. Like, if he's gonna. It's real to him in the moment.
Right.
Like, if I don't get out of the way, he's going to kill me.
Right.
And that's who I want to be in the ring with, because that's how I try to be, and the fans can detect that too.
Yeah, I just felt that, and watching his character, I guess he was just a rich guy, whatever, always drove a car in, and had a guy, and he always had the smile on his face.
Right.
And it's hard for me to identify with a guy who's always got a smile on his face. And now he doesn't always have a smile on his face.
Right.
He gets downright dirty. He's got a mean streak, and he's able to express that. And to me, it's just a wide range of emotions, but it's a more focused effort. And he's laying his shit in. And to that point, you're laying your shit in, too. Some of those clubbing blows you're giving to Prince Puma, I mean, good shit. So tell me about how fun that angle was to shoot when you threw that summit through Cueto's window. Because that was awesome.
Who wouldn't want to throw somebody through a glass window, especially if you're a wrestling fan,
right?
The old barbershop.
Now, how did that come about?
They had, we were talking earlier about how, like, you had, like, the gimmick pool cue.
Yeah.
They only had one.
We're talking low-budget movies.
They only
and I only had one gimmick pool cue and a whole pool fight scene for about a whole day's worth of filming, so I ended up beating the shit out of all the stunt guys with a real pool cue. That's what we were talking about. Go ahead. So you got one shot.
They have one sugar glass window. And this window they've had from episode 3 for the whole season.
Yeah.
So they're waiting.
So it's lasted a while.
I mean, they've got it in a protective case in the back. They haven't put it up yet. They're waiting for the right time. And we almost used it once before, and then this was like the time when they're like, all right, this is how we're going to start. You and Patron, we're going to do the glass thing. And the best way to put it is it was awesome. Like we walked through the deal, and when they put the glass up, I think everybody that was there, like seeing the glass and like watching us standing there, just had that feeling of like, this is going to be a moment of Lucha Underground that people talk about, that means something to people. And it felt like that to me too. And to Patron, obviously, too. He's told me about it. We've talked about it several times. So I think starting that angle with him, throwing him through the window, and I'm excited for you to see where we go with it on August 5th, because it has
season finale, Lucha Underground on El Rey Network, August 5th.
It has a good payoff on August 5th.
Okay.
And I think you should leave it at that. It's a really cool thing, and it has a payoff, and I think that's one of the cool things about Lucha is there's less loose ends. Because it's a tighter show, everything is usually paid off and tied together.
It's interesting how you guys go out to commercial break and how you come back in. And I was in my trailer out there in Agua Dulce when Eric came by and he was explaining that. And it's just an interesting take and it's an interesting vibe coming from the world which you came from, WWE for a long time. What made you leave there? Did they not want to renew you? Was it time for you to ride off into the sunset? What happened?
So 2011, I had like my first serious injury in wrestling, really. Like I had prior to that, I had like a torn MCL, a partially torn MCL on my other knee, and a couple of scopes. But 2011, maybe April or something, I was on a Europe tour, and I suddenly couldn't use my right arm. And I got an MRI in Birmingham, England, and they said it's because your C5 snapped in half and floated down and is impinging your spinal cord. So I finished out.
Good news to people out there that aren't doctors.
Exactly. Yeah. Not good. So I finished the tour, and they said you're going to have to get this surgery ASAP. I got it, and it's relatively minor in the world of neck injuries.
Right.
It's not as bad as having a neck fusion. If that's what Tyson Kidd is having, that's terrible, man, because he's so talented.
Yeah, he'll be back though.
Yeah. But so I had that, and my contract is expiring. And when I came back to negotiate, I wanted a few specific things. Really, what I wanted was more creative autonomy, and just wanted some assurances of that. And we were talking about a deal, and they wanted me to sign like a 3-year deal. It was kind of the same deal that I had, it was a pretty good deal at the time. And I think because I had that neck injury and I was still like having residual pain and I hadn't had time to fully rehab and I jumped back into the road full time, I feel like I wanted more control of my time. And when I left, we left on really good terms. I just said, I don't want to resign right now. Maybe I need 6 months or a year and I'll come back. We just left it at that.
Yeah.
And that has become 4 years now almost.
Okay, so then all of a sudden, how did El Rey or Lucha or Eric get in contact with you to say, hey man, we got Lucha Underground, and explain this concept to you?
So I first got contacted by Chris DeJoseph,
yep.
And I got a phone call from Big Dick Johnson, and he said he was starting a wrestling promotion, and I was like, hey Chris, that's great to hear from you. Call me when it's happening. I'd love to. Right. And I say that a lot to people because I've gotten several calls like that, and most of the time, like, you get a call like that, it's bullshit. Like, nothing ever happens.
Same with the movie business.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a little bit jaded.
Yeah.
And then I don't hear from him for like a couple months. And then a couple months go by, he calls me and he says that the wrestling promotion I was telling you about, it's like it's happening. We've got a location picked out. We need you to sign for like a year or I think even 7 years. He asked me to sign for. And I was like, okay, that's great. Let me just come check out this building, this promotion.
So you want to go down and see what you're getting yourself into?
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I went down there, I went to the Temple, which is a warehouse in downtown LA. Which actually I filmed a movie like 2 years prior to Lucha Underground with Danny Trejo in that exact location. And when I got there, when I was filming the movie with Danny, that place was disgusting. It was covered in rat shit. There was like old, smelly carpet all over the place, trash everywhere. And when I got there, Chris walked me in. It was still a dump, but they had built an awesome lucha set in the middle of it. They had like bleachers. They had this nice ring. They had a huge jib. And then I talked to him, and I started talking to the production team, and they're talking about how they're going to run an 8-camera setup. It's going to go live to tape, and post is going to happen. And then they started explaining the vignettes, and I was all of a sudden like, oh, wait a minute. So this is really happening. There's money's been spent. There's a set built. There's a production behind it. And then I talked to Eric, who I met on Tough Enough, the Tough Enough that you did, that I came to as a guest at one time, and Tony, and they explained to me what their vision was for this thing, and I was like, wow, I didn't ever plan on really going anywhere aside from maybe going back to WWE, but there's a lot of things here that I'm really into. It's they're planning on combining action films with wrestling. They explained the way they're planning on shooting the vignettes. They are shooting in Los Angeles, like 15 minutes from where I live, which doesn't hurt anything.
Yeah.
And we also set it up so that, we're shooting on weekends, which means I can still do movies and projects. As a matter of fact, I missed an episode because I was doing an action movie for Cinetel.
Right.
And they were nice enough to just say, okay, yeah, if you take this job, it shoots 3 weeks and we only overlap 1 day, go ahead. And all those things combined was kind of exactly what I wanted. I wanted to have creative autonomy. I wanted to be free to pursue movie projects, but I also have more fun wrestling than I do anything else. There's not really anything more fun than wrestling, but with WWE, it's just that's all you have.
Man, it's a grind, and here's the thing: you were able to get away from it enough to turn back into a civilian, as I say, because it took me 3 years to adapt to being a civilian. Actually, 4.5.
I'd say I'm still adapting.
You know what I'm saying? But you're not on the road all the time. Now, back when I was a road warrior, not a part of the road warriors, but you know what I mean, in the road mode. All of a sudden, you're on the road for days and weeks at a time. It's like, man, I need to go home. All of a sudden, you get home, you're home for a day and a half. Man, I need to get out. So
I still get hit with that. There's times when I'm thinking, and I saw a bunch of the guys yesterday. Johnny Nitro got married. I mentioned that to you too, but he was on the Spirit Squad. So there's a bunch of guys from OVW, Mundo, Steve Lewington, Romeo Roselli, Cassidy, but also I talked to Dolph Ziggler's in town. He's doing something else, but I was talking to him about the schedule, and some of those, I think they're on the road 6 days a week now because of NXT.
Yeah.
So it's even more full time now than it was when I was on the road 4 years ago.
Yeah, I loved it when I was doing it, but now like me, now I was doing my reality stuff. We're shooting, Broken Skull Challenge with 60 days, but I live on set and I'm in LA. I'm local. If we do Redneck Island, man, I'm 30 days. I'm on a lake. I got a boat, and so it's that kind of traveling. It's not all over the world. But going back to the...
But I miss it, though. I would say there's definitely times where I'm sitting at home and I'm thinking, man, I wish I was driving somewhere. Or I wish I was on location. I wish I was doing something. And I definitely have, I feel like that, transition between being a road warrior or a road dog or whatever to being a civilian is tough.
So then, any aspirations of going back to WWE?
Sure, definitely. It's always hard though to say in wrestling what's going to happen, and I know Lucha Season 2 is happening, and they're really excited about it, and I am too. And I feel like everything that I wanted to do in wrestling is happening for me right now with Lucha, so I'm gonna stay and I'm not going anywhere. But with WWE, when I was a kid, I was watching WrestleMania, and that was my dream.
Then dig this. Okay, so you do Season 2 of Lucha Underground if it gets greenlit, and hopefully it does get greenlit. It's a great show. You do Season 2. Then, hey man, pack the bags if WWE were to call, and get back out on the road with them. To me, if you did that, and I'm not trying to pry you away from Lucha Underground. I'm recruiting for WWE now. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying,
Eric, if you're listening,
to me, you're just a more dynamic entertainer. You're better now than you were, and so your value has increased. And with the roster being what it is, there's a lot of green guys out there. There's not a whole lot of guys with 12, 13, whatever years experience you have now to go back in there and get back in and operate, to me, on a higher level.
I've thought about that, and it's hard to say what's happening in wrestling and entertainment because there's so many moving pieces. But last time I was backstage at Raw was March, and it was cool seeing everybody. I saw Carano and Stephanie and all the guys, and it was cool being backstage. And it's something that I feel like at some point if there's no Season 2 of Lucha or if the show gets canceled, it's something that I'd be interested in doing.
Here's the flip side of that, and now I'm going to play devil's advocate for the other side. Man, the micromanagement over there is at an all-time high, I will say.
Yeah.
And I'm not sitting bashing. It's just the way it is. It's a very, very, very controlled scenario. And so would you be able to exist? Because you really like the freedom of being able to go to Eric or whoever, Chris and Joseph, talk to those cats and expressing your concerns with angles and promos and stuff and your relationship with the guys there. And Dario, could you go back to that system of being so contained, controlled?
Yeah. That's why I said if there was no Lucha, then I consider going back.
Gotcha.
But there is Lucha, and that right now is I think it's exactly what I wanted to have in wrestling, and I think that there's a possibility that it could take off and become something much, much bigger than anyone is expecting.
I think it could.
And
I think the potential is there for that.
If I don't know, if I were to go back, I mean, I feel like I've learned a lot about who I am in the ring and how to go about sticking up for yourself with who you want to work with, what you want to do. I don't know. I think I could exist anywhere.
Talk to me real quick, and let's wrap this thing and go home. I know you got a busy day, and I'm going to pack up and head out to Challenge. When you went down there and you saw the set with Krista Joseph, and you talked to Eric, obviously when you meet Eric, you can see he's a very bright guy.
Right. And
you met him that one day at Tough Enough 2011. But as that picture's being explained to you, that presentation, I love the format that is Lucha Underground. Right. It's entirely different from the pro wrestling world that we knew as WWF. Or WWE. Mm-hmm. So did that all of a sudden throw you, or you were able to see all the components and put it together in your mind and have the same vision? Because I love the way it's presented. Now, I'm not telling WWE to do that. They do what they do, and Lucha's trying to do something completely different. I respect that. I like the way it's presented. Were you able to visualize that when they were breaking it down to you? Because it's a foreign concept.
To be honest, yes. Like I could, and I've had a lot of conversations with different promotions that have said that they're going to do something different, that they're going to do this, but no one ever really does. Everything just seems like they're WWE. They're trying to be WWE, but they don't have the money, the production, the talent. They don't have what WWE has. And this is the first time when they were explaining everything about how they were going to do the vignettes and how it was going to be all post-produced and run like a TV show. And I was visualizing not too far off from what it is, hoping that I was going to be correct in the way that it was put together. And to their credit, they followed through. Like they committed to being different. They committed to not trying to be WWE, to being something different, which is, I think, to their credit, why it's so successful. It's why I like it. It's why I think a lot of people are responding to it.
Oh, dude, 100%. If it was just like WWE except on our format, I think it'd suck ass.
Yeah.
I just like the mystery behind it, the mystique. I like the lighting, the production value. Some of the camera angles are absolutely crazy.
Right.
And so I love the setting.
That's the competitive advantage.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to be WWE, except with like 400 people in the crowd instead of 20,000, yeah. You're right. It's going to suck. But with that smaller building and with you running the same building over and over again, you have the opportunity to do those crazy camera angles, to use the obstacles in different ways, to present talent and your roster in a different way, and that's the competitive advantage, and they're doing that, which is the only reason that it's so awesome.
Now, how hot or how live is that crowd? Are they buying in? I mean, I know they bought into that hour match you and Prince Puma had, and a lot of them. But are they revved up? If you hit the gas, are they right there with you?
Absolutely. And when the very first match I had with Prince Puma, the crowd was there. It was hot. But after the show started airing on TV, the crowd now is exponentially better. They know everyone's names. They're right with from Aerostar to Phoenix to King Cuerno. They're chanting names and they're there. It's a live crowd.
So in 5 years, I know you're probably not a guy that looks 5 years down the road. At 40, what would Johnny Mundo be doing? And dude, when I say that's still a very young man.
It's right around the corner. The reason I left WWE was to get into this like action film making and producing. I was talking to you earlier about how I used to live in Manhattan Beach, and I sold my house in Manhattan Beach to pay for a movie that I wrote. The movie's called Boone the Bounty Hunter. It's about a narcissistic bounty hunter who boons celebrities. It's got me like chasing Kevin Sorbo around Burbank and like hitting a senton off a roof onto him. And then this guy, his show gets canceled, and he goes after real criminals in Mexico. So it's an action comedy that I wrote and I'm starring in and did like a lot of the choreo for. And it's going to be done maybe in a few months. That's specifically what I'd like to be doing 5 years from now. Writing, producing, and starring in action comedy movies. And in the meantime, wrestling. And if I can do both those things, then I'd have everything I want.
How long did it take you to write that thing?
I mean, I didn't write it alone either. There's 4 writers in the project. I started working on it over 3 years ago, and the first draft took like 6 months, and just polished and polished and polished and polished and polished. And we finished shooting it almost a year ago, and we're still working on post. So, I mean, last week I was sitting with the editor. We'll go through the whole thing. We'll watch scenes, and if there's something that's not working, I'll point stuff out. We'll pick different takes and like patch the whole thing together. So I didn't even know how to explain how many hours I've put into this project at this point, but it's getting pretty awesome, and I think when it's done, people will see it.
Okay, so then when you get it out, how will you release this? How will people be able to see it?
That's a good question. So this is the first time I've done this. I mean, I've been in a lot of movies, but this is the first one that I've really put myself out there for. I took the trailer to AFM last year, and it got offers and interest from people from Voltage and Lionsgate to Green Films, Gorilla Pictures. Everyone loves it, but they don't have anything to lose. Of course they love it, because if they distribute your movie, you just pay them money, and then they take a commission on what they sell. After we finish the movie, then we have some leverage. So once this movie is finished, I'm going to try to sell it to a distribution company or get a guaranteed upfront from a distribution company, and then the answer to that question, where can you see the movie, will be answered.
Okay, then maybe you come back on a podcast. We'll talk about where people can see the movie.
Love to.
What are you guys filming that thing with? What are you shooting on?
We shot on Alexas. We shot, I'd say like 80% on Alexas, and then a lot of the pickups we did on an FS700 with a 4K recorder, and then we cut in some 5D footage. And there's a reality show component, because he's a reality show bounty hunter.
Right.
So the reality show stuff, we 5D, 7D.
Right.
So now we've got like this monster of a timeline with like different cameras and all this footage. So when we finish this edit, it's going to take, I don't know how long it's going to take the color corrector to make everything match. But they're going to have their work cut out for them. The sound designer's going to have their work cut out for them. The music guy, like, there's just a ton of work still to be done.
What are you looking at for the running time of the movie to be? A sweet spot, hour and a half?
Hour and a half is a sweet spot. Right now it's about 85 minutes.
Okay.
And I forget exactly what the number is, but if your movie is shorter than like 82 minutes, it falls into a different category, especially in foreign markets. They don't call it a feature film.
Right.
So keeping it around that 85 is what we're going to try to do.
And these are those little bullshit things that sometimes you learn on the day. It's like, what the fuck? Nobody told me about this. Yeah.
We're having an extra long like final credit sequence.
Yeah, I only sold my house to this motherfucker. Now you're telling me we got to do more shit?
Yeah, right.
Last thing, the season finale of Lucha Underground on the El Rey Network is August 5th. Dude, you're a fitness fanatic. You're looking to do more movies, more acting, some more writing. You can continue your wrestling career. What do you do for hobbies? What do you do for just Johnny Mundo's downtime?
Man, that's a good question. I feel like I fill my downtime with work, and maybe it's just sometimes if you're not doing something, it's hard for me to relax. It's hard for me to turn my brain off. Most of my downtime I fill with either reading scripts, writing scripts, or physical stuff. If it's surfing or parkour or training, that's usually what I do with all my free time.
Okay, you mentioned back in the day you were a little bit of a party animal. Were you just a drinking guy?
Back in the, yeah. I mean, when you're on the road with WWE, you're on those Europe tours, and everyone's having some drinks, like talking smack on the bus. That happens too, definitely. I mean, I do a lot of improv shows, like comedy shows, and those are usually in Hollywood somewhere, and we'll go do a show, hang out, and have some beers afterwards, shoot the breeze a little bit. That's how I'd cut loose, I'd say. So what are you doing? I mean, to do with all the workouts, obviously you're genetically blessed with good genetics, right?
So you're doing your workouts, so you're able to have a couple of beers and still stay ripped.
For me, the workouts is what keeps me honest, so to speak. Like, if I go too far, like maybe I did last night at Jeter's wedding, and I'm sitting here on Stone Cold's podcast with a huge hangover, it's hard for me to sit still.
You hid the hangover pretty well.
I'm going to go to the gym after this and try to sweat it out, and I'll probably regret having so much fun last night. But on the other hand, I don't know when I'm going to see those guys again. Some of those guys I might not see for a couple of years. it's really that's my balance. It's all the physical stuff I do when that starts to suffer.
So you will let your hair down every now and then, because I was sitting there thinking, man, this guy's just a fitness machine. He just doesn't. He's got to be able to have fun every now and then. So you do have fun,
right? Okay. You have to.
Yeah, dude, if I don't think I could maintain my sanity, especially living here in L.A.
Exactly.
Dig the weather, but the traffic kills me, and I won't go on a tangent about that.
I've heard the podcast. I know. Yeah. I know about the traffic.
I'm too tired. I told my wife the other day, I got so pent up. I said, you know what? I was driving back, and I was in rush hour traffic. I was coming in on a Friday evening, and I told my wife, I said, you know what? I'm just, after 11 years, I'm finally able just to deal with the fact that when you're out there in the primetime hours, you're going to get your ass smoked. You might as well try to drive a comfortable ride that has a good sound system in it and then just enjoy some fucking music, because you're just going to be sitting on the highway with a bunch of other motherfuckers for a long time, and that's the bottom line on L.A.
Yeah.
Can't break it down no more than that.
Because of that, like there's been times where like I just don't leave anywhere. Like if I have to travel during rush hour, if I'm at the gym, I'll just stay for an extra hour. Or I'll go somewhere early. I mean, you just get it. That's the bottom line.
So we're going to end on that.
Okay.
We'll save the traffic stories for a whole other story when we're drinking beer. Hey, man, I'm talking to Johnny Mundo. Dude, out of all the years we've known each other, we never really sat down and just shot the shit for an in-depth period of time. I appreciate you coming out of the house. I know you were busy. You had a busy weekend hanging out with the guys and everything like that, and you got a lot of stuff going on. So thanks for coming by the house. When you get the movie coming out, give me a shout. We'll keep in touch with each other anyway. Now we've got each other's numbers. And once again, Lucha Underground, El Rey Network, season finale, August 5th. And you will get a chance to see what happens, the payoff between El Patron, Alberto Del Rio, and Johnny Mundo, and along with the other cats that are on the show as well. I dig the show. Congratulations.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us for another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show. Please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and tell your friends. For more Steve Austin Show, go to podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com.
This February on Pluto TV, we're putting the spotlight on iconic black talent. Watch your favorite movies like Top 5, 48 Hours, and More Than a Game. And drop in to binge black TV classics like The Bernie Mac Show and Moesha. Pluto TV has hundreds of channels and thousands more movies and TV shows, all for free. So download the Pluto TV app on your favorite streaming device and start watching today. Pluto TV. Drop in, watch free.
I'm Dave Detman, also known as Dr. Gadget. I've got a new podcast called The Big Idea, and every week I talk to inventors and visionaries who made it big in their respective industries. We'll tackle weekly trending tech, provide inside tips for your success, and go deep dives on the latest and greatest innovations. And I know you're going to love this part. I'll also have plenty of free giveaways. Who doesn't love free stuff? So listen to and follow The Big Idea with me, Dr. Gadget, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast One, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy, Big Brother Jake, a.k.a. Jake Warner, my government name. Check it out. I host a show called the Big Brother Jake Podcast, and I've taken my talents to the biggest and baddest platform on the planet. That's right, baby. Podcast One. My show is unique as I talk about everything. Life, sports, entertainment, being a single dad juggling several jobs. I'm a hot mess, but it's damn entertaining. Subscribe and review now on Apple Podcasts and listen on Podcast One or wherever you get your podcasts.